Hello and welcome to the Wee Ball Podcast. I'm Luke Crummish. Joining me, as always, is Tyler DeSena, and it is the long-awaited quarterback episode. Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
Doing good, like you said. QB episode, the biggest, most important position in football, and this is certainly an interesting class. It seems everybody has different takes on specifically the top four guys, but really everybody in the class, everyone's got some sort of opinion on them. So it's going to be exciting to look them all over and give them all our rankings. It's going to be great.
I am so sick of hearing about these top four guys. I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to talk about Stroud, Young, Levis, AR. It does, guys. It's gonna happen. Everyone's done their evaluation. Whatever happens, happens now. Nothing can be changed. But we got to talk about them because that's what we do. We bring information to the people. That's what we do, Tyler. But first, we're going to talk about our favorite guys in the class. And those guys happen to not be in the top five. So, Tyler, I'll let you go first because I'm a gracious host. And there you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think a guy that I wanted to talk about was a Senior Bowl guy. Obviously, we were both down in Mobile. I had the opportunity to speak with this guy. It was Jake Haener, who had a off and on Senior Bowl week, as did every quarterback. They all kind of, had days where they were, maybe some of the best players on the field, had days where they were inconsistent. But Jake Haener, if you look back at his college tape, I think you see a lot better representation of what he is. And that's one of the better, in my opinion, better processors in this class. Somebody who is making those full field reads. I had the opportunity to talk to him and hear a lot of the stuff that he was saying to other, reporters and people down on the field. And he was talking about how much control he had in that Fresno State offense, the fact that they allowed him pretty much full control at the line. There aren't that many quarterbacks that you're going to see who know an offense like the back of their hand like that. And Jake Haener was certainly one of them. And it shows up on tape. He's throwing with timing, anticipation, accuracy. Obviously not the biggest guy, doesn't have a cannon, but he's kind of just one of those gamer types. Like if you ever have the time, go back, watch those highlights against UCLA. There was an absolute shootout there. I think he got hurt in the middle of the game, hurt his shoulder or something, came back in, threw a bunch of dimes and took the lead. And I think they ended up winning that game. But he's just a fun player. And I think that that's kind of what I was looking for in some of these outside quarterbacks is who's a guy who you can just look at and be like, that dude's a gamer.
Yeah. Speaking of gamers, speaking of guys, speaking of dudes, there's two guys that I'm going to touch on because I feel like one of them I have to, and the other one I want to, right? So the one that I feel like I have to is Clayton Tune. Because
your brother, you two are identical.
Doing an interview with Clayton at the Senior Bowl, and Tyler, afterwards, when Clayton walks away, looks at the video, you guys kind of look alike. I look at it, I'm like, nah, bro. And I'm like, wait, what the? So I got to talk about Clayton. He is a much smarter quarterback than I think he gets credit for. I think that offense is a little weird, and it's hard to know what he's supposed to be looking at. But he had his best day when Tank Dell, his number one receiver in college, wasn't out there. And I think that's something to note.
Definitely.
I don't know if he was forcing it to Tank and it made him worse.
They ran that offense largely through Tank when he was on the field.
Yes.
It was a lot of funneled touches and a lot of designed plays for Tank, which I think limited the amount of reading of the field and mental processing that you got to see Tune do.
And that's what he's good at. So when Tank was off the field, he was a much better quarterback, which is weird because he was a good quarterback at Houston. They put up numbers together. So it was cool to see that from him. He's definitely – I don't think people give him enough credit in, the arm category. I think he has an NFL arm. I don't think he's this college arm.
It's definitely – the NFL – I mean, the arm has some pop. We saw it also in Mobile. Yeah. That last day, he was the best quarterback out there.
He can put touch on the ball. So I think
he's one of those guys who also, really quickly, while we were in Mobile, got better all 3 days.
I think that's a big thing.
He had his worst day first, and he just compounded. And then by the time we got to the third day, we're like, wow, he's dominating.
I think he's going to be a backup quarterback in the NFL for 15 years. I think that's the type of guy he is. And he'll do some spot starting for you. He'll be good enough. He might win you some games. So I think more people need to think about Clayton Tune as a reliable option at the back end of the draft. And then the other guy is our guy. I think this is a both of us thing, not a me thing. One, Tyson Bagent, our guy. Shout out to Tyson. He's the GOAT, man. But he's got the pop. He's got the athleticism. He's got, he's got the arm talent, man. And that's something that NFL teams love. And if you can develop the arm talent into a high-level processing quarterback, which we saw that he can do at the Senior Bowl. Like, obviously, there are questions because he's a D2 quarterback, but we saw he can think through a play after learning this playbook very quickly in Mobile. We know he can do it. It's just teaching him, putting him with a good quarterback to kind of mold him into the quarterback that you want him to be as an organization.
Yeah, you put him in a quarterback room where he's got a good, good OC, good QB coach, guys who don't necessarily, I don't think you're going to be dedicating a whole lot of resources to his development because he'll probably, go somewhere in the day 3 range. But he's somebody that I think you saw it in Mobile. He was constantly talking to the coaches, constantly talking to the other quarterbacks. He's somebody who seems like he's very much learning through osmosis and kind of, just going through the motions and then just, adapting and taking in everything around him. And it seemed like, especially when we talked to him, we have the interview up on the page, make sure to go check it out, that he very much was about just trying to understand and grasp everything in the environment. So if you stick him in a successful quarterback room with the right staff, who knows? Maybe you're sitting there and he's like a practice squad guy the first couple of years. And then you have this guy that you feel confident can be your backup and a spot starter if you need. I think it's one of those ones that if you give him time, it could reap a lot more benefits than people think.
And we talked to him. We asked him, hey, who's one quarterback all the time that you wish you could sit behind and learn from? And instead of saying someone who plays like him, instead of saying someone, kind of in his style and his build, he went with Peyton Manning, who's touted as one of the smartest quarterbacks of all time type thing. And I think that shows that he wants to learn so he can be the best Tyson Bagent, and not just the best Tyson Bagent, the best quarterback he can be.
Yeah, he wants to be. He understands where he's where people believe his limitations are, and he wants to go out and prove everybody wrong, and it's clear. Yes. And I think that's the perfect mentality to have. That guy wants to go out there, play football, and prove to everybody that he belongs here. And I think that's you can't ask for a better mentality and mindset than that,
especially from a guy in his position at the level that he's going to be drafted around. That's what you want from that type of guy, that day 3 quarterback.
Everybody knows that doing prospect interviews, talking on a podcast 2-3 times a week, it comes with a necessary confidence that you have to have. And one thing that really improves confidence is the new and improved Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped. It has arrived, and oh man, is it a game changer. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of these goodies. First off, the Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is the future of grooming and, dare I say, the greatest ball trimmer ever. I am blown away by the performance and craftsmanship of this trimmer. Their 4th generation trimmer offers cutting-edge ceramic blade to help reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. Their Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and also has a 4000K LED spotlight so you can get a more precise shave. Because this trimmer is waterproof, you can say goodbye to the mess on the bathroom floor. If you thought that was good but want to take your grooming even further to the next level, the Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker ears and nose hair trimmer. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate nose holes. The Crop Preserver below the waist deodorant and Crop Reviver below the waist toner will change the way you approach your daily hygiene routine. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts in this Performance Package 4.0, the boxers and the shed travel bag. Bring your comfort in boxers to another level. It's time to take care of yourself. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off with code WEBALL. That is WEBALL, WEBALL. Make sure to use it on your next purchase with Manscaped for 20% off.
But enough about our guys. let's get into the top guys, and we're going to start out with number 5. We have the same number 5, and it is one Hendon Hooker. I'm not excited to talk about Hendon Hooker, man. I'm going to be honest with you. I think we both have him at 5. I think I'm a lot lower on him than you are.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not honestly, I hate to say it. It's not, there's a clear tier drop off. Maybe even like, if we were looking at quarterbacks from other classes, it might be a multiple tiers drop off from 4 to 5. Like, it's just Hendon Hooker. The production was there. He had a fantastic season this year, obviously.
It's the easiest offense I've ever seen.
But that's the thing. The offense, almost none of that is going to translate to the NFL. I mean, the things that we will see, like obviously he looks good from a mental standpoint. He was reading the field at a high level. He wasn't making too many mistakes. But the problem is the end of the season, he tears the ACL. So you're not going to see him in his first year. And that's already bad enough. And then when you combine that onto the fact that he's one of the oldest quarterbacks, he's one of the oldest quarterbacks in this class. I'm going to look up his exact age.
He's
25 years old. He's going to be, he'll be 26 by the time he touches the field, which means like by the time you're looking at the end of that rookie contract, he'll be 30. It's just,
I don't want that. If I'm an NFL GM, I'm not drafting that. I'm sorry.
You see a guy,
because he's a project.
You see a guy who's played, and this is exactly my point. You see a guy who's played in an offense that you don't think is going to translate, but you see there's natural talent there. You can't deny it. There's natural talent with Hendon Hooker. The size is good arm, accurate quarterback, but you see a project, somebody who hasn't, mentally had to go through the same progressions that he's going to see in the league. And you're like, okay, cool, developmental guy. Then you add on the injury and you're like, all right, already developmental guy, but now we can't even give him starts if we wanted to. Then you add on the fact that he's going to be 26 by the time he gets to touch a football field, almost 27. And it just, there's too many things stacked against him. The fact that he's still number 5, I don't know if it's more of a testament to him or if it's the fact that the rest of this class is like, it's just kind of in that weird area. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think a team could draft Hendon Hooker, late day 2, early day 3, and potentially reap some benefits and find a guy who could be a starter if their quarterback goes down. But it's just, you don't often see a guy that's developmental like this where you question the ceiling as much as Hooker just because the fact that he's already in his mid-20s.
I think Hendon Hooker is a good football player.
Agreed.
I don't think he's going to be mentally on the level that he has to be. Not of any fault of his own. That's just the offense he was in. That UCF-style offense is not good for quarterback development. And then, I don't know, man. I just think you can't pile all of those things on together. If this was a kid who tore his ACL at Ohio State in that offense instead and is that age, I think he's worth a flyer.
You take away any of the individual, like the 3 downfalls being the offense, the age, and
you get rid of one.
You take away one of them, people are gonna. He's going round 2. Like you take away one of them. We're not even asking.
Perfect storm.
Exactly. You take away the offense, and then you have an older quarterback with an injury who at least played the higher level offense, like you said. You take away any of the 3, just one of them, but the problem is it's just so much stacked against them that you don't necessarily feel confident that you're taking a guy who can A, play for a super long time, and B, have that starter ceiling. But I think that we've talked a decent amount about, Hendon Hooker, and I think that it's time to move on to our number 4, which is also
talk about this guy either.
The same number 4, and it's Will Levis.
I don't want to talk about this guy either, bro.
The thing is, everyone's talked about the same 4: the Young, Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. But as much as I, understand that that's the top 4, I really do think there's a tier in between the top 3 and him. I think we're probably going to see that on draft night too. There's just a lot of questions with Levis. The offense he played in. I mean, don't get me wrong, an NFL offense, like NFL style concepts, but it's the most quarterback friendly offense that any NFL quarterback can play in. We see every quarterback have success. Why couldn't he beat out Sean Clifford? That's my question. A big part of it.
Sean Clifford is going to go undrafted. Like he's going to go undrafted in this class.
With the Packers today. He met with the Packers today. We never
He
know.
met with the Giants and the Jets. I don't care. He's going undrafted. They're interviewing him to see if he wants to become a coach already. I don't care.
But enough with Sean Clifford. Will Levis.
Why couldn't he beat him out?
There's clear talent there. The arm talent, phenomenal, great. The mobility and like the ability to run and create plays with those legs, awesome. And I think teams are going to see that. But the problem is, it's the same thing with Hendon Hooker. We don't know where he is mentally because of the offense he played in, and there's just too much inconsistency in the accuracy, the pocket presence. In my opinion, it's very
shaky.
At times. It's not only that you'll see he has both of the bad types of pocket presence at times. You'll see it at times where he doesn't see it. If it's coming off the edge, he straight up will not see it. And oftentimes he gets nailed, and you wonder, could that result in an injury at some point? Because it just seems to blindside him every time. And then when it comes up the middle, he just drifts back and drifts back and drifts back. And sometimes his arm is able to bail him out on those, but other times you'll see him bounce him in the dirt or throw it 5 feet over the guy's head. And it's just, there's too many question marks in his game where you don't necessarily know, is the arm talent worth it? Because it's a good arm, it's a great arm, but is it a Josh Allen arm where you feel confident that you can take the chance? Is there flashes of that other stuff? I don't know how many there are, which is why I don't think that you put him with the other 3 guys.
It's another situation where if he was at Penn State, he started there, he beat out Sean Clifford. He was in that offense that might not be an NFL offense, but it's a pretty complex offense. There's a lot more that Sean Clifford had to do than Will Levis had to do at Kentucky.
Yeah, Will Levis was not asked very much.
No, if he was over there, he didn't transfer. Like, I just think if you can't beat out Sean Clifford, you're probably not beating out Taylor Heineke. You know what I'm saying? Like that level of quarterback.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't trust it.
I don't worry as much about, the college competition because obviously there's been growth in that time period. But I do worry about I worry about it all clicking for him. There's so many things that have to go right, in my opinion, and you didn't see them go right often enough.
Exactly.
Even the arm strength you see is crazy, but you rarely ever see a deep ball that's on target. Yeah. Almost all of them are underthrown or over. They're just this is the thing. We're going to talk about AR at some point, and with him, you'll see it, and you see it for multiple plays in a row, and you're like, wow, that's what it looks like when it goes perfect.
That's a top QB.
There's not enough. Yeah. Even though AR at times, obviously, we're going to talk about him later.
Did not look like a top QB.
Yeah, but there's enough times where you feel confident that he can be one. I just don't know that those flashes are nearly as much there with Levis, and I don't think the ceiling is as high as people are leading it on to be. He reminds me of a Ryan Tannehill range quarterback, and I just don't know if that's the kind of thing that you're looking to develop somebody into.
If that is what you would consider his top end,
I don't know, but not top end, but that's
so. Then what's his top end?
I mean, I think his top end is probably top. I think you could be a similar tier of where Jalen Hurts is at. Probably is a top end, but I think things would have to go perfect. I don't know.
Realistically, where do you think he ends up?
I think Daniel Jones to Ryan Tannehill is kind of where I see him. I think the issues with him and Tannehill are so similar to me because I watched Tannehill in Miami for so many years.
I like that.
The pocket presence of Tannehill was always a big issue. He never saw it coming, and he would just get nailed. And we had bad offensive lines, and he made them look worse because he couldn't see it off the edges. And I see that with Levis. And then Tannehill had a cannon coming out of A&M, and then every single deep ball looked like he just couldn't connect on one. For multiple, I just see so many parallels where it's I just don't know how high the ceiling is where I want to take a chance on this guy being my top 10 quarterback pick, and then I don't draft one for 3 more years.
If Will Levis puts it all together, he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL.
Very good.
Going to be a good quarterback.
Puts it all together, but the problem is,
but there's so many things. There's so many things.
Because so much.
It's not like he just has to. The brain part just has to click.
There's too many variables.
There's so many variables. There's so many things that he does that could get him injured on top of there being so much
he does
that has
not
to
protect
click.
himself.
No.
Not only in the pocket, outside of the pocket, he tries to run through people.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, we all saw the pictures. The dude's jacked, but it doesn't matter.
You're not that guy, pal.
No, there's no quarterback in the NFL who takes hits the way that Will Levis was taking hits in college who lasted. Not a single one. Cam Newton had the injury problems, and that's the only guy who took hits like Will Levis does, and Cam Newton was like 6'5", 240. So,
I don't know. There's a lot that has to click, and there's the injury risk on top of that, and him coming off being injured. I'm like, I don't know how good I feel about those things clicking. You know what I'm saying?
Also, I don't think he's super young either, where it's like,
I thought he's 24. 23?
He's 23 and will be 24 before the season starts. Like, that's not super young either. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's not like undraftable territory or anything.
Yeah,
he's not Brandon Weeden. He's not Brandon Weeden at like 28 getting drafted. But that's still like you're looking at. You want to look at a quarterback and you're like, okay, we're going to draft him. And he's a guy who has to develop, and you want to look at him in the top 10. You don't want him to have to start becoming the guy at age 27. 26. Yeah, 26, 27 years old. Well, yeah,
let's move on. I don't want to talk about him anymore.
He's infuriating, and it's hard to figure out how you feel about him. I think we move on into the top 3 now.
Now it gets interesting. Now it's fun.
I think we're going to start out with your number. Oh, I think we can start out with my number 3 because we both don't have him number 1. And he might be the number 1 pick. He's my number 3, your number 2. In my opinion, the highest floor guy in the class.
Yes.
CJ Stroud. I think we all know at this point what it is with CJ Stroud and just what makes him such an intriguing prospect. It's the accuracy and the mental game. The dude has anticipation like we haven't seen in years. The ball placement is just, there's accuracy and then there's accuracy plus, and he has accuracy plus. Like, the ball is it's like when you watch, I mean, I'm going to make another Miami comp, but it's like when you watch Tua in the RPO game and you see and you see the ball come out, it's like right here on the hands. And CJ Stroud, it's not just like that in the RPO game. It's whenever he has a clean pocket, it's like that. Anytime where he has a clean pocket, it's like that.
The Georgia game, how he played at Georgia, if he can play like that consistently,
he's QB1.
He could easily be QB1. I just didn't see him create enough. I saw him play within the confines of the Ohio State offense. And don't get me wrong,
at a really high level.
Really good. He is the best receivers. Like, it's going to sound like I'm talking about Tua, but best receivers, he had a really good O-line, all this stuff. But, man, he's accurate. He can hit every throw. Like, I'm not concerned with him not getting it. I'm concerned that, like, if this once he gets pressured, once he, this or that, once he has to,
once his wide
receivers are covered.
You just wonder if when it falls apart, for CJ Stroud, like when it falls apart for him, is he going to be Georgia game CJ Stroud? Or is he going to be every Northwestern game we saw from him, CJ Stroud? And that's what's really scary is the most recent, if you want to go the recency bias route, that's QB1 in the class.
Incredible, yeah. But
phenomenal. The dude was making plays off script, running. That was a big thing. There's a lot of questions about whether or not he was actually restricted from running by the coaching staff because there'd be times where he'd be in the pocket and the linemen are all to his side.
See his eyes light up.
And there'd be a massive lane for like 25 yards, but you'd see him sit there and go through the progressions and keep looking. And it's just like, is that him not seeing it? Or is it him not being told not to do it? And that's where,
to be honest, I don't know how he could not see it. Like, it was that wide open a lot of the time.
It's just, there's so much that you just wonder, is he the off script guy that you're looking for? Because if you're going to take a guy with the number 1 pick, the hope is that he's not only going to be an extremely high-level guy in structure, which we know CJ Stroud is. Coming into the league, I expect him to be high floor immediately. And just the mental game is great.
He'll pick it up.
But he will immediately. You know that. But the problem is, will he be the plus guy? Will he be the guy that you're going to want to take him, if you're Carolina with the number 1 pick? Are you looking at a guy who's top 10? Or are you looking at a guy who, if it hits, is top 5? And that's where the difference is. And I think that's why we both kind of have him at 2 and 3, is just because we both feel that our top guys,
they have the X factor,
have that ceiling and have that level that they can hit, along with being able to hit the in-structure stuff. It's a lot easier to get good at being good in structure than it is to be good out of structure. And the top 2 guys, in my opinion, have it. And your top guy obviously has it. Which moves us on to, I mean, do we want to do my number 1 first or your number 1?
Let's do your number 1 because he is my number 3. I will just say my piece real quick and hand it over to you so you can brag about your number 1 all day.
Okay.
My thing with Anthony Richardson, I know he's got the ceiling. I know he can be the best quarterback in the NFL. Like, I know that.
It's there.
Flashes.
It's there.
But I also know he could be Patriots Cam Newton. Like, that's obviously an exaggeration.
But can he be first 2 games Patriots Cam Newton? That's
all right, man. Like, but in all seriousness, I think
I know what you're saying.
There's it's another thing where there's a lot there has to click, but I trust it to click more for him than I do for Will Levis.
Also, I genuinely think there's less variables.
Yes, I do too. I think there's a few less variables. I think he protects himself better, even though he's a bigger guy who's a more powerful runner.
Mm-hmm.
I think he creates out of structure well. I think we've said this a lot, but he's smarter than people give him credit for. I just think, can he do the things? I think that him, CJ Stroud, and Bryce Young are very, very close together. I think they're all, grade-wise, top 15 guys.
Fair.
But man, can he have the baseline that CJ Stroud is going to have? Or are you going to be having the highs and the lows,
Yeah. You just
Noah's flood or desert. Like, is that what we're going to be doing? Or are we going to be getting flatline with some highs? I would take that any day. But I don't know if that's what we're going to get from Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to take over here and kind of, rant a little bit about why I'm so high on him. And I think it is because the only thing with his floor that I'm genuinely really concerned about is the accuracy and the footwork. And the thing is, that's the easiest thing to fix. You can't take a guy who doesn't know football and make him know football. You can't. If a guy isn't smart, like on the football, like if the football IQ isn't super high, it's hard to bring that up over time. And I think that Anthony Richardson, you see it time and time again, that the process is there. There's times where you're watching him get through his progressions 1 to 4, make the right read, and then the ball's high. And it's just like, if your feet were if you slowed down a little bit there, if you were in sync, top half, bottom half, the ball hits. And like, that's the issue. It's not like Will Levis where you're seeing him read, 1 or 2 guys and then misses. It's not like Anthony Richardson on a play in, play out basis. You're watching him go 1 to 4. And while he's going 1 to 4, he's reading the rotation in the defense. There's times where you're watching him on tape and you'll see the rotation pre to post snap. And the first time he'll look at it and he'll look like a deer in headlights. But he'll see the thing the second time in the game. I think it was the Tennessee game where they were running a lot of like inverted coverages and stuff, and they were changing things up at the line. And you would watch him the first time he would throw it and he would be like, okay, now I know what I got to do. And you would see it the second time and he would hit it. And you see it click there. And that's the thing. He was such a quick learner on the fly throughout the season. And I felt like the process was there, especially not having great guys around him. It's just primarily the footwork and the mechanics that I think are that's my only real question. The arm talent, like you said, phenomenal. The running, he has the highest rushing ceiling we've seen since Lamar Jackson as a quarterback coming out of the draft. When it comes to how good can they be as a runner, it's the highest we've seen since Lamar easily. And
it's there.
I think the biggest thing with him that people talk about, but we don't really put it in with his evaluation as much, is the pocket maneuvering is second to none. And when it comes to, you're right about, I think when we're talking about maneuvering the pocket within the structure of the offense and still being able to read 1 to 4, I will give it to Anthony Richardson. but the ability to stay on script while also realizing what's coming at this side, I think that his pocket awareness is absolutely phenomenal. There are plays you watch him on tape and you're like, whoa, that's like if Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were like combined into one quarterback. There's one play I know in particular where he's getting blitzed and he's looking and he sees it like the edge rusher off the side and he goes in front of him. Then the defensive tackle wins and he sidesteps him and then just flicks it 30 yards and it's a dime. And it's just, there's so many of those moments where you're just like, that's it. And I'm so much into ceiling and guys who just play differently. And I think if it all clicks together for Anthony Richardson, you're looking at a top 3 quarterback in the league, which is just something I'm not sure I can say about anybody else in this class on that level.
All right, it's time for my number 1. I think the people know who it is, but he's your number 2. I'll let you say your piece first before I go on and, talk about my boy for 5 to 10
Of
minutes.
Course. Yeah, it's Bryce Young, and I think I'm really not that far apart on Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young. And honestly, I think they do a lot of similar stuff well. Like we were talking about, the pocket maneuvering with Bryce Young is phenomenal. I think that his, accuracy in space, like that's a thing with him. His accuracy on the move and out of structure is untouched in this class. It's untouched. His ability to, maneuver the pocket and when things go bad, keep his eyes downfield. It's just something that it's rare. It's genuinely, there's only one other guy who we've ever seen do that, and he just won a Super Bowl. So like, I get it there. The thing with me and Bryce Young, and I'll keep it quick, it's the obvious stuff. It's the size. It's the fact that he's only 5'9", 5'10". It's the fact that he would be the skinniest quarterback in the NFL by a mile. It's, we've seen flashes of the arm strength. Is it consistently there at his size? It's just, there are so many things with Bryce that they feel like slight issues and they would have to become non-issues for him to be my QB1. And that's just why he's 2. But I still think he's a phenomenal prospect in this class. And there are teams, the Texans, where he would be a phenomenal fit.
Listen, I understand that Bryce Young is 2 to 3 inches smaller than me. I get it. I get that he weighs 10 pounds more than me or whatever, 20 pounds more than me, what have you. If he's full of water, maybe 20. But the man is, not my words, the Steph Curry of football. That's obviously an exaggeration, guys. Don't get mad, all right? But he is just different. Like, he has that X factor that I don't think anyone else has. Obviously,
Agreed.
Anthony Richardson can have it, but I think
Bryce has it right now.
Yeah, he knows how to activate it like that. I also think his floor is higher. And I think that floor being higher is what puts me to have, Bryce as QB1. I think we talked about the pocket maneuvering. He's incredibly smart. I know some things I'm not allowed to share, but he's very smart. Like,
when it shows up on tape, he's a smart guy. Yes. You don't have to have insider info to know that Bryce Young is definitely high football IQ and just, like,
there's just a level. There's just a level that I think Bryce is on mentally that Stroud is comparative, but like, I think he's better. I think he's smarter. Obviously, I think Stroud is more accurate, but I think Young is more creative, more accurate in space, more accurate on the move. I've watched that man save games just by, ducking under someone that he probably shouldn't get away from. Like, I've seen linebackers blitz off the edge, completely free rusher, him duck under them, and win a game. I've seen him go toe-to-toe with the worst Alabama team I've seen in my years of living that I actually could understand football and beat the number 1 defense that I've ever seen, the best defensive football that I've ever seen in Georgia. I know Bryce Young can win football games. I don't think it matters what level he's at. I know that man can win football games, and I'm putting my trust in the fact that he has that baseline that is going to be, comparative to Stroud's baseline, but he has the upside that's going to be comparative to AR's upside. And
it's the best of both worlds pick for you. And I totally understand that. The only gripe that I have is just, is that floor really there at that size? That's what we wonder. Because you wonder, you saw it, you see it with some quarterbacks, and you're like, okay, yep, the size, we understand how they performed in college. But the thing is, does that change? Like, I understand he played in the biggest conference in football in the SEC, and he played with, a receiving core where half the people that, most people on Twitter probably can't tell you any of their names.
Name me one. Name me one wide receiver on the team right now.
At this point, I would struggle to give you one. But you wonder when everything becomes that one step up. No matter how good the SEC is, it's not the NFL. And you just wonder or at least I do, if the baseline is still there. He's still QB2, and I still think that this top 3 group of prospects could all really be good, the next wave of NFL quarterbacks that we're looking at. I think that we're in a really good position here where you could be looking at 3-4 guys who in 10 years you're like, all right, we had our wave coming in like 2017-18 with like the Mahomes draft and all that. You had another wave coming in 2020 where we had the Burrows, the Herberts. I think 2023 could be that next draft where you're like, this is where the core of our league's quarterbacks comes from when guys like Rodgers start to retire and all of these older dudes start to, walk away. We wonder where that middle class has gone. This could be middle class, but it also could be the top end.
Listen, I think there's going to be 3 to 4 quarterbacks this year, 3 to 4 quarterbacks next year that make up the Super Bowl champions, other than the guys who are already in the league for a very long time. The quarterbacks that we have coming into the league, it's a good time to be an NFL fan. And that is all for the Weeball Podcast. I'm Luke Crummage. Joining me, as always, is Tyler DeSena. We got some big things planned. We hope you all stay tuned. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast platform, 5 stars is preferred, but whatever you have to say, please say it with your chest.
As long really as we quick,
get the rating, we don't care.
Really quick, I'm gonna jump in here. This is the most contentious position in the entire draft. Tell us your top 5. I want to hear everyone's top 5.
Challenge. Okay.
And if you can, if you've gotten that far down, I want a top 5 and I want a wild card in the comments.
All right. You heard the man. Put it in the comments. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. Whatever you want to do, go for it. We hope you have a great day, and we hope you